And it's shaped like a big M. It's a big cave that looks just like a gigantic M. And something about that cave just spooked me. Out of all the caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate.
Imagine stepping into a place where the rules of safety and reason begin to blur. A place where shadows swallow light and silence feels heavy enough to press against the skin. For some, those places exist deep beneath the earth, inside caves, or stretched endlessly across deserts where the horizon burns under the sun. For two men, those landscapes became the backdrop for vanishings so mysterious they continue to haunt investigators, loved ones, and curious minds even today. In August of 2010, an experienced cave diver named Ben McDaniel descended into the underwater caverns of Vortex Spring, Florida, and never resurfaced. 4 years later, adventurer Kenny Veach disappeared in Nevada while searching for a strange cave he called the M Cave. Two different men, two drastically different settings, yet both vanishings share one eerie theme. They left behind more questions than answers. Strap in, because today's journey takes us into two of the most baffling modern mysteries. Viewer discretion is advised. The disappearance of Ben McDaniel, Wednesday, August 18, 2010, started like any other humid summer day in northern Florida. At Vortex Spring, a popular freshwater diving spot located just north of Ponce de Leon, nothing seemed unusual at first. Locals and fellow divers were used to spotting Ben McDaniel around the property. Ben had been spending the last several weeks at his parents' beach house, coping with personal struggles, but also immersing himself in a passion that brought him comfort: scuba diving. Vortex Spring offered something unique compared to other freshwater springs in Florida: the chance to explore a network of underwater caverns that stretched hundreds of feet into the earth. For thrill seekers and technical divers, this was both an irresistible challenge and a deadly temptation. That day, other divers noticed Ben lingering at the cave entrance underwater. He wasn't just drifting around, he seemed to be studying it closely, as though planning something. After surfacing, Ben went back to shore, refilled his tanks at the dive shop, and spent part of the afternoon testing equipment and making entries into what appeared to be his dive logs. Nothing outwardly screamed danger, but to those who knew the spring's reputation, the cave entrance wasn't something to approach lightly. By evening, Ben was once again in his gear. He made his way past the gate and into the water. Employees who had seen him earlier that day let him through, assuming it would be just another dive before he resurfaced. Only this time, Ben never came back. It wasn't until August 20th, 2 days later, that alarm bells truly went off. Visitors noticed Ben's truck still parked in the lot. At first, some thought maybe he had left it overnight. But as hours passed with no sign of him, concern escalated. Authorities were contacted, and soon the spring was sealed off as a possible search zone. Investigators combed through his belongings. Inside his truck, they found his dive logs, cell phone, wallet, and something that sparked even more curiosity: over $11,000 in cash. For someone supposedly preparing for a dive, leaving behind such a large sum didn't make sense. Attention quickly turned toward the water. Given that Ben had last been seen entering the spring's cave, the obvious theory was that he had drowned deep inside. At first, many expected it to be a straightforward body recovery. But as divers prepared to go in, they realized they were walking into something far more complex. The first thing investigators noticed was how strangely untouched Ben's belongings seemed. Everything was neatly organized, almost as if he had intended to return soon. His dive logs showed careful planning, but no reckless impulses. It was puzzling because nothing suggested a man about to vanish forever. The truck became more than a vehicle. It was a silent witness, parked right there as if frozen in time. Neighbors and friends who knew Ben described him as adventurous yet methodical, someone who loved pushing limits but respected the risks. The discovery of the cash made the case even harder to read. Was it an unfinished errand? A planned purchase? Or could it mean Ben had expected to meet someone that night? The wallet and phone being left behind hinted that whatever happened, he had no intention of leaving the spring for long. Law enforcement quickly realized that every theory they built opened new questions. If he had drowned, where was the body? If he had walked away, how did he do so without his essentials? And if foul play was involved, who stood to gain? The spring itself loomed larger now, its clear waters holding secrets just beneath the surface, waiting for answers no one seemed able to find. Vortex Spring's underwater cave system wasn't just a scenic dive, it was a labyrinth of silty passages, narrow tunnels, and depths that tested even the most seasoned explorers. The entrance descended 300 feet inward and reached depths of around 115 feet, with sections that demanded precision navigation. Any slip-up, kicking up silt, losing sight of the line, or running out of air could quickly turn into disaster. That's why divers trained relentlessly before entering environments like this, and why permits were required. Ben had studied the cave for weeks and even sketched out maps in his dive logs, suggesting he was determined to push past the entrance. But determination in cave diving often clashes with reality. The deeper one goes, the more treacherous conditions become. When the first search teams entered the cave, hopes were high that they'd find Ben quickly. Yet dive after dive, no trace of him appeared. No tanks, no wetsuit, no sign of distress, nothing. By the fourth day of searching, Vortex Spring called in one of the best, Ed Sorensen, a highly respected cave diver and rescue specialist. Ed was known for his ability to navigate dangerous passages where others feared to go. In 3 separate dives, Sorensen pushed nearly 1,700 feet into the cave, which was about 200 feet further than Ben himself had mapped in his logs. Using a dive propulsion vehicle and specialized equipment, Sorensen scoured areas that would test the nerves of anyone. But despite covering more ground than anyone else, he surfaced with nothing. If Ben was in that cave, Sorensen reasoned, his body should have been found. And yet, the spring remained silent. Over the next 36 days, at least 16 different divers explored the spring. Conditions grew harsher as silt clouded visibility and narrow tunnels forced painstaking progress. For the McDaniel family, hope was kept alive at the water's edge. They waited day after day, clinging to the possibility that someone, somewhere, would bring their son back. In desperation, they offered a $10,000 reward for anyone who could locate Ben. Later, that figure grew to $30,000. But instead of producing results, the reward created new tensions within the diving community. Many divers had already risked their lives searching for Ben, and some felt insulted by the suggestion that money might be what motivated them. The risks were real. In fact, one volunteer diver who attempted to explore further into the cave never returned. His body was eventually recovered by Sorensen. The tragedy underscored just how unforgiving the spring was, and raised a chilling question. If even trained rescuers were dying, how could Ben have made it that far undetected? As time passed without answers, theories began to multiply. The most straightforward explanation was that Ben had drowned deep in the cave and simply hadn't been found. But even this had cracks. Divers had covered immense ground, and bodies in underwater caves usually don't stay hidden forever. Others suggested foul play. Investigators noted that employees at the dive shop had criminal records and were facing charges at the time. Could Ben have met with danger on land rather than in the water? Ben's family even hired a private investigator who uncovered fragments of suspicious behavior, but nothing concrete. To this day, no equipment, no remains, and no definitive clues have ever been recovered. The disappearance of Ben McDaniel remains one of the most mysterious, unsolved cases in diving history. A young man went into the spring and simply never resurfaced. The vanishing of Kenny Veach. Just when the diving world was still grappling with the mystery of Ben, another story of disappearance surfaced. But this time, the setting was the opposite of an underwater cavern. The Mojave Desert stretches endlessly beneath a blazing sun, its terrain marked by rugged mountains, abandoned mines, and miles of wilderness where a single mistake can cost a life. In November of 2014, adventurer Kenny Veach vanished here while searching for something he called the M Cave. Months earlier, Kenny had left a comment on a YouTube video that sparked immediate attention. He described hiking near Nellis Air Force Base, south of the legendary Area 51, when he came across a cave shaped like a giant M. What set this cave apart, according to Kenny, was how it made him feel. As soon as he entered, his entire body began to vibrate, filling him with an indescribable sense of dread. Out of all the caves he had explored, this one was different. Something about it spooked him so much that he turned back. The internet, of course, latched onto his story. Dozens of users encouraged him to return, film the cave, and prove it existed. Some doubted him, while others were fascinated by the idea of a mysterious cavern near one of the most secretive military zones in the world. In October 2014, Kenny attempted to find the cave again, but came up empty. He posted a video titled M Cave Hike, documenting his efforts but expressing disappointment. Viewers were relentless, criticizing him for failing to deliver proof. Among the flood of comments, one chilling warning stood out: "Do not go back there. If you find that cave entrance, don't go in. You won't get out." The comment section became a battlefield of speculation and pressure. Some users mocked Kenny for what they saw as a tall tale, while others pushed him harder to prove himself. For Kenny, who often hiked alone and shared his adventures with pride, the online criticism seemed to strike a nerve. People who followed his channel noted that he was the kind of person who thrived on challenges, always chasing the next daring trek into remote areas. His earlier hikes showed a man unafraid of rattlesnakes, cliffs, or long stretches of desert without supplies. The mysterious M Cave had now become more than a curiosity. It was a test of credibility. Friends and strangers alike wondered whether Kenny felt cornered into returning, not out of curiosity, but to defend his reputation. This was no longer just about exploration, it was about proving the cave existed at all. The strange vibration he described was never explained, but it lingered in the minds of viewers. Was it a geological oddity, a psychological response, or something more sinister? Whatever it was, Kenny seemed determined to solve it, even as the warnings grew louder and more ominous. Ignoring the warning, Kenny prepared for another attempt. On Monday, November 10, 2014, he set out for the Sheep Mountains with plans to return the next day. He never did. Days passed, and his girlfriend grew alarmed. She reported him missing, sparking a large search effort across the desert. Teams combed the terrain, retracing routes he had shown in earlier videos. Eventually, they discovered his cell phone near the entrance of an abandoned vertical mine shaft he had once featured online. His car was found parked several miles away, but there was no sign of Kenny himself. As with Ben's case, theories about Kenny's fate branched in every direction. One possibility was mental health. Kenny's girlfriend revealed that he had struggled for years with depression. Some believed he may have used the hike as a way to disappear intentionally. Others argued that his reckless hiking habits caught up with him. Kenny was known to play with rattlesnakes for fun, embark on multi-day treks with minimal supplies, and wander without GPS or even a map. In a desert where temperatures swing from blistering heat to near-freezing nights, that kind of unpreparedness can prove deadly. There were also natural dangers. Mountain lions, rattlesnakes, and coyotes roamed the Mojave. An accidental fall into one of the many hidden mine shafts could easily have ended his life, concealing his body from searchers forever. But then came the more sensational theories. Some believed the M Cave was not a cave at all, but an entrance to a secret military facility connected to Area 51. Had Kenny stumbled too close to something classified? Could his disappearance have been a silencing effort? Others leaned into the idea of extraterrestrial involvement, imagining that what he felt inside the cave wasn't natural at all. With no body, no remains, and no definitive answers, the truth remains buried somewhere in the desert sands. Two men, two different landscapes. One disappeared into the shadowy depths of an underwater cavern. The other vanished under the relentless sun of the Mojave Desert. Neither has ever been found. For some, the explanations may lie in accidents, miscalculations, or personal struggles. For others, the mysteries invite theories of foul play, hidden government secrets, or forces beyond comprehension. What binds both cases together is the silence left behind. Families without closure, search teams without answers, and communities left to wonder how someone could vanish so completely. Stories like these remind us that even in a world mapped by satellites and tracked by technology, mystery still thrives in the hidden corners, beneath the earth and across the desert horizon. So what do you think? Were these tragic accidents, or do they point to something more? The truth may never be known. If stories of vanishing adventurers and cave mysteries leave you intrigued, Don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you never miss the next dive into the unknown.